Okay, here we go. All right. Hi, everybody. So we're really excited. We are trying this live stream here where we are going to be answering your questions. We're doing a little Q&A, and we have some questions that you already sent us and some questions for each other. It's going to be super fun. And so I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Ryan is here, my co-host for Hidden Gems. And how you doing, Ryan?
Doing great, and in the words of MMA ring announcer Bruce Buffer, we are live.
Yes,
I just had to do that one time.
I know that was very good. That's right, we're live.
I should have apologized in advance for the audio levels, but there you go.
Yeah, this is new. I've never done a StreamYard. So we're learning, and it looks like we already got some people in the chat. So this is very exciting.
Hello to the people in the chat.
Yes. So please send us your questions. And so Ryan, how have you been? How have you been doing?
Oh, well, doing okay. Just a box of fluffy ducks, as Bruce Pritchard would say. It's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. There's no getting around it, but I've just been focusing on things that I can control. So
yeah.
So there's that.
Well, that's all you can do. It's been a very busy week for me because we took pretty much my whole day on Thursday and Friday to cover the Megaplex, which is pretty much the biggest theater chain here. They were kind enough to let me and my friend Andre from Backseat Directors to cover the reopening. So I've been working really hard on a video for that and an article, and I'm really excited about it. And then we also saw Slumdog Millionaire there in the reopening, and that was pretty fun. Because I love that movie.
From director Danny Boyle, who directed Yesterday, the most adorably confusing movie I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah. Have you seen Slumdog Millionaire?
I've only seen certain parts of it because in middle school we did the big musical number from it, Jai Ho, for a performance, and so we had to watch that scene over and over and over again in order to show what we were supposed to do. So I've seen that 100 times, but I haven't seen the rest of it. I've heard it's really good from literally everybody.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's such a great movie. It has romance at its core. And it's a story about how love gives you hope through the tough times in life. And so I hear some people say it's an undeserving Oscar winner, but I disagree. I think it's great. And it got a lot of flack because a lot of people thought that The Dark Knight should have been Best Picture that year, but that's not me.
It would have been nice, but it had no chance in hell.
Yeah.
It really didn't have a chance.
I mean, I probably would have nominated The Dark Knight, but I prefer Slumdog Millionaire. So I'm weird. I'm wild and crazy. What can I say?
I was surprised when Joker won the Golden Lion at Venice. I was like, Venice doesn't even like mainstream stuff, let alone comics.
I know. Yeah, I mean, things have changed, and with Black Panther as well. But I don't know. I love Slumdog Millionaire. So I feel like that recently the movies that got the most flack, I mean, aside from Green Book, but yeah, so there's Green Book, and then The Artist. People seem to think that was undeserving, but not for me. I love The Artist. I think it's really charming.
Do you remember when that came out? I'm trying to think if it was like 2012 or 2011.
2011.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Because that was like the last Oscars that I watched like from beginning to end. And I was thinking to myself, I hope The Artist doesn't win, because there was one movie that I was hoping would win but didn't. and that's why I have no faith in the Oscars at all, because everything that I want to win never does win. So it's just a thing where I'm like
that's what was so exciting about Parasite. It was like, oh my gosh, the best movie won. That was so exciting.
I didn't see it, and like I said in my I finally saw Parasite video until like 6 months after it debuted in October, and I was like, okay, it's coming out October, I'll see it then. And it didn't even come. It came to like Miami, which is like 5 hours away from me, and I'm not going to Miami. So I had to wait 6 months, and me and my friend were like, all right, this is probably the only chance we're going to get to see Parasite. So we went to see it, and it was worth the wait. It was more than worth the wait.
Yeah. It's like Parasite won, and then they decided the whole rest of the year we have to suffer.
Right.
It's like, we'll give you that gift, and then forget it. But there's a question from Movie Studio. He says, when will your Megaplex video be released? It has to be. I told them I would give them final edit on it, so they have to watch it, and because I didn't want her to get in trouble for her job in any way or whatever, and they're being so nice, so they will look over it and we'll post it when they approve it. So hopefully that won't take too long. I don't think it will. So, but yeah, I was so excited. I loved Parasite. I thought it was an incredible film. It managed to be both art house and mainstream, which is really hard to do, and have something to say without beating you over the head with it, and be funny and be scary at moments. And I don't know, it was great. Really good.
It's there's this at first I thought about the movie a whole lot, and I was thinking to myself, how was it so easy for the Parks to just get all of them into this one house under one employment? But then there's this movie called The Mask of Zorro, underrated, really good movie, and there is a part in there where Anthony Hopkins says the line, Don Montero is a true nobleman, meaning that he will never look a servant in the eye. And I always thought to myself, you're relying on some guy's manners to get your operation off the ground. And when I thought about Parasite, it was like, the Kims consider themselves to be like upper crust. Like, Kims are here, Parks are like down there.
Mm-hmm.
So the Parks are like, they're not even going to look us in the eye. And they were right.
Yeah.
They managed to smuggle their entire family into this house, because the Kims, it kind of reminded me a lot of like Fritz Lang's Metropolis, where it's like the higher crust is up here, the workers are down here, and it's like something has got to connect the two, or else they're just going to fracture even more than they already are.
Yeah, but I felt like they weren't, to me at least, the Kim, the rich family, what weren't unlikable. Like, I still understood their perspective. Maybe the father a little bit more, but I still felt like I understood him as a human. He wasn't just like some one-note rich guy, greedy guy, which would have been boring. Like, I understood him and who he was as a human.
It's like the dude from the Tom and Jerry movie. We've got to have money. I'm like, no, Mr. Kim was not that guy. You can actually understand why the family was like going, like, just, they were separated, because the dad was like a massive workaholic. Yeah. The mother was stay at home and really couldn't be asked. And the kids were off doing their own thing. So the Parks were in here like, this is fertile ground. We can get away with murder here. And literally in some cases. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's such a good movie. I hope that because they're rebroadcasting, favorites, classics, things like that. And I would love to go see Parasite again.
Yeah, I saw a thing for a Fathom event where they're bringing back the Blues Brothers, one of my favorite comedies, and I'm like, there's no way I'm missing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I just saw Slumdog Millionaire, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to it in a way. And for me, at least, there's not that big a difference between going to a new movie versus going to a classic movie.
It really doesn't get old.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would love if they had some classic Disney films, but evidently, it's the Disney isn't probably to get people to watch Disney Plus. So it's more Universal films and WB films, things like that. At least at the nearby, they haven't had any Disney rebroadcasts. But I would love that. I mean, I'd like to see Little Mermaid or something like that. Would be really fun.
I heard a rumor that Disney was like trying to buy a theater chain or like buy a certain theater so that they could show like their movies there permanently. I don't know how truthful that is or not, but it's something that I heard. It was like 6 months ago.
What would you think about that? If, like, I personally, I know a lot of people are like, "Ooh, Disney buying a theater." Like, for me at least, I wouldn't really have a problem with it, because I would look at kind of similar to what we do with food. You know, we go to a franchise, we go to McDonald's, we go to a Pizza Hut or whatever, and we get our food. And that's fine. We don't expect to have every different kind of food. And so I think it would be the same if we went to a Disney theater to see Disney movies. We went to a Warner Brothers theater to see Warner Brothers movies. Like, that wouldn't matter to me, because I usually just see one movie when I go to the theater. So I don't really need to have access to all the different movies at one. Like, if that became the future, then I think it would be fine, personally.
Like, yeah, you don't go to a barbecue place and be like, the bacon and eggs are good here.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No, you go to a barbecue restaurant for barbecue. So I completely see what you're saying. And I'd love if they do like if Universal bought out a theater, they could show like the Universal monster movies like on loop, you know, like Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, etc.
Yeah, and you could even be able to sort of individualize the food and other things to the studio. Like, you could have Mickey bars, for instance, or you could have, you know, sort of iconic Disney food at the, like, I think it could be fun. I think it could work. I mean, I'm at this point, I'm in favor of anything that helps the theaters stay open, because I don't want to lose live theater. That would be a tragedy.
Yeah, well, at least for right now, it seems to be a good business model. And I'm not an economics guy in any form or fashion, but I don't think like the on-demand stuff took off to the point where it's like, what are we doing opening these theaters back up again? And it's not exactly like the lineup they released during quarantine was like blowing down the house or anything. They released Scoop, which I've heard is mediocre at best. They released Trolls 2, which I heard again was mediocre at best. If they had released, like, say, Black Widow or something like straight to Disney Plus, then I could be like, oh, like, I could see where they're going. Or I believe, like you mentioned on the last episode, it was Mulan was releasing straight to Disney Plus. Then people would be like, okay, they're getting serious about this. But no, it's just like the stuff that would probably not even make a profit if they released it in theaters, or they would just send it straight to Blu-ray and stuff. But had like, hey, we've got a streaming platform to our own now. Just send it there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the whole home video on demand strategy, I don't think it's really been a moneymaker. I mean, it's been fine, but I don't think, you know, the whole rent for $20 kind of a thing. I don't think I think you'd be hearing more about, oh, this great success that Scoob had, or any of these other releases, and you haven't really heard anything. So my guess is that it didn't really. I mean, you heard a little bit about Trolls, but I think that was just them trying to be greedy. I don't think if you actually do the math, I don't think it actually made a profit. But I think they were just trying to get some leverage against AMC and start. That's what started this whole thing. But yeah, I don't think it's become profitable. So that's good news for the theaters.
Yeah,
But
they love to mention the high end peaks, but they don't like to mention the low end problems.
yeah, and they haven't mentioned many peaks. So I don't know. It's interesting. All right. Well, let's dive in and start answering some questions. So
Let's say some cues.
yes. All right. So from Ann Scott, she is a co-host over at the Hallmarkies podcast with me. We have what is your favorite Netflix original movie?
Oh, I know what mine is off the top, but I mean, if you want to go first, go ahead, but I know mine.
What's yours?
Mine is El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. I am a massive fan of Breaking Bad. I own all of the seasons like on DVD, and that's something I never do. And like buy all the DVDs in their physical copy, but that's what I did for me. I never watched the series when it was initially on, and I'd always heard about it. So I bought the first season on a whim, loved it, and then just bought all the DVDs. I'm like 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And Breaking Bad is one of those things where it's like there is nothing bad about it. Like, I mean, you could nitpick if you want, but it's like even the spinoff, Better Call Saul, is the best show on TV right now. They're 5 seasons deep, about to be 6, and how it hasn't won an Emmy for anything just boggles the mind.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but El Camino was essentially the ending to one of my favorite characters in the show, Jesse Pinkman, because every character in Breaking Bad, this is what makes the show beautiful, is the fact that it gave every character a satisfying ending. To Walt, to Skyler, to just everybody. Everybody got off like about as perfect a way as you can get, except for Jesse. That was left open-ended. Well, El Camino closed that loop, and without spoiling anything, it nailed it perfectly. It's one of those Netflix movies that it drops at midnight Pacific time, which means it drops at 3 a.m. where I live. So I purposely set my alarm clock for 2:45 a.m., waited for it to drop, and then watched it all, and then went about my day after that, which is something I've never done since. And that's what I did for that. So yeah, El Camino is awesome.
That I've heard really good things. I need to watch Breaking Bad one of these days. I've started it, but I'm me. I'm more of a movie person than a TV person, but I know people love it. But yeah, I heard good things. My brother liked that El Camino. So for me, I have kind of, I guess, 2 choices as far as live action. I would say Roma from Alfonso Cuarón.
Oh yeah, I love Roma.
Absolutely beautiful film, beautifully filmed, black and white. The performances are really great. There's especially a scene where she delivers a baby that is extremely devastating. It's a sad movie, but also quite triumphant. I felt, and I mean, it has similar themes actually. I would say to Parasite, as far as the different sort of talking about different classes and their lives, but I thought it was very sort of warm and affectionate towards its characters. In like, even whether you're talking about the rich characters, the servants characters, it's very affectionate, has an affection for all of its characters, which I appreciated. And yeah, it's a beautiful film.
Yeah, Roma got picked up by Criterion. I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was like a Netflix movie just got into the Criterion collection. Like that's crazy.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because it feels like a Criterion release. And then I would say my favorite film of last year, it was animated, is Klaus, which was Klaus on Netflix. I absolutely loved the animation. I loved the story. I mean, I'm a huge Christmas movie person, but I thought that that the Santa Claus character was such a wounded character, and I really felt for him. But it was also a very funny movie. I absolutely loved the animation. It was super charming, warm-hearted. I just loved it. So,
yeah, when I saw Roma, I was like, okay, I've heard nothing but great things about it, and it was hard to watch, but in the best way possible. The scene you talked about where I can't remember the maid's name; it's escaping me at the minute, but when she delivers that baby, and it's like.
oh yeah.
It like I had to like face palm because it gave me PTSD. It was just so hard to watch, and just the flood of memories that just came back. And not only that, but she delivered the baby basically in the middle of a massive like protest and a revolution attack, and it was like cars are on fire and buildings are coming down. It was like the opening to Star Trek 2009, but instead of space, it's set in like 1960s Mexico. So it's a lot more grounded. And as far as Klaus goes, Klaus was actually voiced by J.K. Simmons, who I have nothing bad to say about him. Yeah. He's a great actor. In my favorite movie of the 2010s, Whiplash, he was J. Jonah Jameson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies with the most iconic laugh of the 2000s, the whole You serious? Like,
yeah, and he's a good voice actor too. I mean, he's done a lot of things, but I particularly kind of knew him for Gravity Falls.
Oh, he was in Gravity Falls? I had no idea.
Yeah, he played the brother of the Grunkle.
Really? Well,
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense now. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of his name. Munson. Yeah, he was in Gravity Falls. But he's good. He's a good voice actor.
Hopefully, Snyder Cut gives him more to do as Commissioner.
No, he got all ripped for it.
He got shredded for nothing, pretty much.
I know. Yeah, Ford. That was his name. Uncle. Yeah. Anyway, so let's get another question. All right. We do have a question in the chat. Have you heard about the rumors of more Star Wars series on Disney Plus? I've heard some different rumors and different stuff. I know Ryan loves talking about Star Wars, but yeah, I haven't heard anything concrete, but of course it makes sense. I mean, they had such success with The Mandalorian. They're going to want to try to replicate that. And who knows, we might end up getting the Obi-Wan on Disney Plus series. So that's coming.
That's the strongest rumor I've heard.
Yeah. The Obi-Wan, because they were going to get it to shooting and then something happened and it all stopped. And so who knows about that? But I think.
Is it named after a Mexican beer?
The Obi-Wan?
Yeah, it was delayed. So something having to do with something named after a Mexican beer, the Dos Equis virus? Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure that we'll be getting some animated series from them. They had the success of the Clone Wars is the final season. And Dave Filoni, I know, is working on projects, and so yeah, I mean, it's going to be hopefully good. I really like Dave Filoni as far as his vision for Star Wars, and I still haven't watched actually the latest season of Clone Wars because I'm so behind on the series as a whole, and I wanted to watch and catch up, but I may not have time, so I may just go ahead and just watch it. But I heard it was good. Especially, I heard the last 4 episodes were really good.
People have been all over Dave Filoni like for the past decade, like, oh, Dave Filoni, he's bad at his job. Well, now he's given us final season of Clone Wars, which I haven't seen, but I've heard nothing but great things about. And he's the main creative force behind The Mandalorian. So, to take a Bible phrase, the stone that has been rejected has become the cornerstone.
Yeah, very good. Yes, and I loved Rebels. I was a big Star Wars Rebels fan. I thought it was great. And it was nice because Star Wars Rebels, because it was all new characters for the most part. They had little cameos, but it was for the most part new characters. And I thought they particularly did the female characters very well in Star Wars Rebels, and that was nice. They were full, complex, full, interesting characters, not just like female empowerment characters, which I appreciated.
Yeah, how do you fix Ahsoka Tano? Stick her in Star Wars Rebels. Give her some lightsabers and just say, go.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Next question is from Caroline Richardson, who's also one of our co-hosts at Hallmark's podcast. She says, what was your favorite movie growing up?
Oh, wow. Like, how long have we got? Well, for me, my favorite was Treasure Planet. I watched that so many times, like over and over and over again. And it's a movie that no one respected at the time, but I feel like has slowly gotten a better reputation now. And I mean, I guess the world wasn't ready for a cyberpunk Treasure Island, but maybe that's just a theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a hard sell. It's a weird movie, but enjoyable, and so that's good that was a favorite of yours. My favorite has the same directors as yours. My favorite growing up was definitely The Little Mermaid. Was my favorite.
That's another good one.
Yeah, it came out when I was 8, so I was, I think, at the perfect age for that. And I remember going to see it at this theater called the Villa here in Utah. And it's so sad because the Villa Theater is now, it sells rugs, which makes me so sad. I know.
What a horrible use of a movie theater.
I know. If I was rich, I would buy the Villa and renovate it and show old movies. That would be the best use of money I can think of.
When we get our Joe Rogan iTunes deal, I'll be sure to help you get that theater back.
Yes.
I don't know what sounds more disappointing, that movie theater is now selling rugs, or at the finale of The King of Queens when that Nathan's hot dog restaurant is now a bookstore.
Right.
The former.
Yeah. But I love Little Mermaid. I love the music. I love the whole message of figuring out where you are supposed to be, where you belong. And I love the animation. And, they animated over 1 million bubbles. And so anytime a character moves, the ocean moves. And it just is incredible. And I love Jodie Benson's singing. I think she's incredible. And Ron Clements, John Musker, they were an amazing team for Disney. And they ended with Moana, and then John retired after that. But
there are
a pretty great run.
There are worse movies to end your career, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So very, very good. Yeah, my other favorite was actually Home Alone. Was my other favorite. I saw that in the theater with my grandparents, and it's the first movie that I ever really remember just like dying laughing so hard. And I still love Home Alone. I think it's so sweet.
It's a Christmas tradition in this house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Movie Gal 226. This is Louisa, my friend from Screen Zealots. She says, which movie have you seen the most times? If we're including watching at home, then it probably is The Little Mermaid, because I watched it so much as a little girl. But if we're talking about in the theater, then the answer is actually Jurassic Park. I've seen it 8 times in the theater, because it was in the theater for forever. I remember and just that whole summer, I just went over and over and over again because I loved it so much, and I still love it so much, and it just blew me away. The dinosaurs and the story and just everything, and it was actually the first movie that I saw at the drive-in here back in March, I think it was, or April. And I started just crying at the end because I'm just like, it just meant so much to me to see one of my favorite movies in the drive-in after that crazy had been so hard. And but I love Jurassic Park. That would definitely be one of them that I've seen the most times.
Yeah, that Jurassic Park's one of my all-time favorites. Like, regardless of year, genre, director, it's like in like the top 3 or 5 if I had to give or take. But to answer the question, I think the one that I've seen the most times in the theater is probably, I'd have to guess, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I remember going to the midnight premiere of it at my local theater when they used to do those, and God, I miss midnight premieres. But I remember I was so nervous because this was around the time when I was starting to be more analytical about movies. And I was like, okay, part 1 was good. If they mess up part 2, then the series is ruined. And they didn't. And it's my favorite of the series. And I saw it at the midnight premiere. I saw it with my dad because he's not a big Harry Potter fan, but he saw them all. And I was like, hey, we might as well close it out. And then a group of my friends were like, we're going to go see Harry Potter. You want to go? I'm like, sure, let's go. And every time it got better. And I have very raw memories of seeing Deathly Hallows Part 2 at the midnight premiere, because this was the first time that I saw the Snape twist. Should I spoil it? I don't know if our audience has seen it or hasn't seen it, or...
Well, so you've given a little bit of a warning, so I think it's fine. I think it's enough out there.
Snape is actually a spy working for Dumbledore, but a part of the Death Eaters. He's more of a satellite member of the Death Eaters, if you want to call it, but he was in reality working for Dumbledore to see what Voldemort was up to. But the plot gets even thicker when you find out that Snape was actually in love with Lily Potter. And Lily Potter ended up marrying James Potter. And Snape never got over it because he was like, James Potter's an idiot. He's not a good magician, and just et cetera, et cetera. But he was there the night that Lily and James Potter were killed by Voldemort, and he's felt guilty about it ever since. And that's along the part where Harry finds out that he's the last bit of the Horcrux and he has to die in order to defeat Voldemort. And just the reason why I have such fond memories of it was that I was mercilessly bullied in elementary and middle school. And I just channeled all of my hatred and evil feelings toward my bullies into the Professor Snape character, because even though the books came out a little bit before my time, I was born in 97, so Sorcerer's Stone would have come out that year. So I just was like, this Snape is a bully. I hate him. Like, even in Order of the Phoenix, when he was trying to teach Harry occlumency, I was like, Harry, just charm him or something. He's clearly trying to get a rise out of you. And that's actually what happened. But when that revelation of Snape was trying to help Harry, I was like, nope, does not compute at all. And it took me years to finally be like, okay, it does make sense. But it was one of those things where I've come to appreciate the Snape character more because Alan Rickman was a phenomenal actor in his day. Hans Gruber and Die Hard and all that, and may he rest in peace. But it was one of those things where it was like, when it happened, I was like, no, I do not agree with this at all. But then over time, it was like, okay, I'm starting to like it to the point where I was like, okay, I accept it now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it was definitely a bold move that she did, and definitely something that I really respected, and I think that Alan Rickman was the best casting of the whole series
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
best moment of his character was when he dies, and this isn't like me thinking about all the stuff I just mentioned, but just in general,
Yeah,
his best moment as Snape was when he dies. Harry takes his tears to go to the pensive to see his visions, and his last line Snape says is, "You have your mother's eyes," and then he dies, and it just
yeah.
like, wow, that's heavy stuff. Now I want to watch all the Harry Potter movies again.
Yeah, I got to see the Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2 in the theater when I reported on the Sierra reopening. So that I saw it in the theater fairly recently. So that was really really cool, and it holds up. It's a really good film. I gotten a little soured on the franchise because I really did not like Crimes of Grindelwald very much. It was
At least that is in Fantastic Beasts, so that's kind of like
yeah
a satellite thing. At least we have like the core, technically 8 films, but
yeah
it's 8. Let's just call it 8 because that was around the time when studios were like, we got to make more money off of this, so let's just lop it into 2 parts. So that's why we got a Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, and a Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, and I can't remember the other one. I know there was a significant one where it was like a part 1 and then a part 2,
yeah
Twilight. Twilight. It was the one I was
yeah
thinking about.
yeah. And I'm glad that trend has stopped. But yeah, you're right about Fantastic Beasts. I mean, I just kind of pretend it doesn't exist because I wasn't that big a fan of the first one, and then the second one I did not like at all.
I like
So
I like the first one because of the atmosphere, and I like I like the 1930s New York like style of it. But as I thought about the 2 movies, the more like the worse they got. At least the first one, it was like, okay, so you're basically an agency working in New York and no one knows you exist. That's Men in Black. When's Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones going to show up with a neuralizer? Is like, ladies and gentlemen, this is a standard issue neuralizer. You will not remember us. Make it fast, slick.
right. Well, and I didn't think that the first one did a very good job of managing its tone. I like it had child abuse and this super dark stuff and things happening, and then like very silly shenanigans racing through the city trying to find the beasts and the creatures, and so to me it was a bit all over the place, but it was good enough with Queenie. I liked her a lot, and then just Crimes of Grindelwald. Oh my gosh, I thought it was one of
everything
the worst
involved,
blockbusters I've seen in theaters.
everything involving Ezra Miller.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
Jude Law looking like a 35-year-old professor, and then and then Richard Harris and Saoirse Stone looking like he's 200. It's like, wow, did you drink out of the wrong Holy Grail like like Walter Donovan in Last Crusade? Like, what happened to you, man?
Yeah, and it didn't even feel like the same world. Like, why is everybody at Hogwarts wearing suits? And I don't know. It's a bad movie. Okay, well, we got a new question from Play the Gamer. Which is the most underrated show? And I'm definitely more of a movie person than a TV person, but I love American Housewife on ABC. I think it is so funny, and Katie Nixon is great, and I love the whole cast. And Diedrich Bader plays her husband. I think the 3 kids are really great. They do a good job. If you watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio is talking to the little girl, That's Julia Butters, I believe her name is, and she is the little girl on American Housewife, one of the kids. She's excellent. I don't know. I just think it's a really funny show with really good writing, and I think it's a ridiculous that no, I don't think it's ever gotten any Emmy love at all. I also think it's a crime that Wendy McClendon-Covey has never been nominated for her role in the Goldbergs, because I just think Beverly Goldberg is a hilarious character. Like, I get it, the show has its flaws, but I don't know. I just think her character is great, and she's great in it. So I would say, I think Goldbergs is a little underrated. I also loved The Middle, which never really got a lot of critics love, but it hung around there for almost a decade and was consistently really good. And its finale was perfect. They did a great job. And another one, that's another show that had really, really good child casting. All three of them, especially Eden Shear as Sue Heck, I think she did a wonderful job with that character. And so those are three that I come to mind.
I have a lot of them, but off the top of my head, there was a show on AMC from the late 2010s called Turn, and it was set then to Turn Washington Spies. I'm a big history buff, and when this show premiered, my dad and I watched like every episode. It only lasted like 3 or 4 seasons. It got canceled, but at the very least, they were able to bring the show to an end, which I did appreciate. Jamie Bell is in it. He plays a cabbage farmer during the Revolutionary War, and originally he is, I can't remember the term, when they're colonists who are loyal to the British. It starts with an A, and I'm sure I'll remember it later. But they were loyalists. They were loyalists. That's what it was called. And through a series of circumstances, he slowly but surely becomes a spy for George Washington. And it's not like we see him and George Washington meet. I think we only see him meet like 3 or 4 times in the entire show. But Jamie Bell like just goes on various missions, and you see him try and keep a lid on things, and and he's just trying to keep things in order, so he doesn't get found out. Has one of the best villains of like any TV show in the 2010s, Captain Simcoe. This guy was he was pure evil. Like he was a redcoat, but like the nightmare we think a redcoat is. Like he just abuses his power, and he has the most annoying voice where he is like, "Mr. Culper, I am so glad to finally meet you." I'm like, someone needs to punch this guy in the face. And it's got great side characters too. There's this hunter named Caleb who has a full beard and his brother is an aide to George Washington. We see the whole Benedict Arnold angle happen, where Benedict Arnold was like a lieutenant to George Washington, but then changed sides to the British. And we see Valley Forge in a big budget way. And it's just, I love war stuff, and not too many shows about the Revolutionary War have ever been created. So Turn is one of the better ones, especially. And it's all on Netflix if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I watched the first season, but then I just ran out of time so I had to catch up. But I thought it was quite good.
The other seasons get really good. So
cool. Very good. Yeah, so that's some. Most great animated shows, I feel like, end up being kind of underrated as well. And something like Rebels, I don't think really it was popular amongst some fans, but I would say that's a little underrated. Also, I think the new iteration of DuckTales is maybe a little underrated. I think it's actually like way better than the original.
Really?
It's shocking to say, but yeah, I do.
I've only seen one episode of the originals, and I liked it fine, but that's a heavy claim. I'll have to investigate that.
I just stand by it because the originals, you watch it and you can tell they weren't thinking as far as any kind of binge watch because the it's the same plot over and over and over and over again. They just do the same story over and again. And like that's true with all those Disney afternoon shows. They do not hold up. I'm sorry, very well, and that's my opinion.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah, that's right.
There was this animated show from the late '90s, mid to late '90s, called The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. It was essentially a sequel to the original Johnny Quest from the '60s, and they updated it in the '90s. And I would say that's a pretty underrated show too, minus some certain elements. And this was around the time when CGI was just getting started, and there are certain segments of the show where they go into CGI, and it is painful to watch. It's that show Reloaded, or I can't remember what it's called, but it's like they look ugly. It's like the animation from Food Fight, that 2012 animated movie that's just really, really bad, and
right.
It's like that, but thankfully, the rest of the show is actually really good. Robert Patrick is one of the voices in there. He was the T-1000, and he's really good in there too. There's a recurring villain in there, and he's pretty sinister. And I've been watching Real Adventures of Johnny Quest because I've been running through all the past shows in Toonami. So I've just been rewatching all of those. And Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, they put a lot of effort into, a lot more than one would imagine.
Yeah. So we're at 46 minutes. We each had questions for each other. Do you want to just maybe each do one of those?
Sure.
I'll do one, and then you do one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my question is, if you had the chance to get me to watch one movie, which one would you pick? Like something you're really passionate about and that you think is just a great film.
Okay. Well, does it depend on the genre?
No, it can be anything.
Oh wow, then. Okay.
Yeah. What's your big passion movie that you really push on people? Guys, you got to watch this.
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of the people that I know share a lot of my same tastes. So if I mention something, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's really good." But
right.
Wow. If I had to pick one, I probably have to go with Blade Runner 2049, and that's a really like. I understand that it's not for everyone, but I try and get everyone to see it because in many ways it's better than the original. The visuals are far better than the original, and that's a heavy claim too, because the originals in the first Blade Runner are so wonderful, but in 2049 they seem to go up even better. And Ryan Gosling gives one of his best performances, other than like his performance in First Man, where he was really good in there. He's even better in 2049. And 2049 did what I was worried that they weren't going to do, and that they paid service to the original but moved the story along. And they made everything better. They forwarded the story. They gave Rick Deckard's story about as satisfactory a conclusion as you can get. Harrison Ford gave the best performance he's given in many years, and this is a guy who would much rather fly planes than act in movies nowadays. Like, see his turn in Call of the Wild if you want further evidence of that. Yeah. But if I had to like say of like recent times, the one movie I would highly suggest you watch, it would be Blade Runner 2049. Because I would normally say Whiplash, but Whiplash is a little bit like, it's a bit indie, and it can be a little harsh. So 2049 is definitely something I would like to grandfather everyone in.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, I do like it better than the original. Both of them for me, the pacing is a struggle just because I get sleepy. But
that's the one thing I'm worried about, because when you sit down to watch either Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049, I love both, but when you sit down and you watch them, you're like, you are just tunnel vision. You are fully invested in them. You can't be there looking at your phone. It's like, no, you have to be looking at every single frame. And I love it for that very reason, but it's like, you also have to be, it's like the beginning of The Prestige. Like, are you paying attention?
Yeah, they're kind of, I call them headbanging movies because I'm like this the whole time, but I admire them and I like them well enough. But yeah, no, I can see why that would be your choice. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but part of the reason why I thought of bringing you on to this podcast was because I really thought your defense of Whiplash was great in our best of the decade video that we did, the collab. I thought you did, because I like that movie, but to me it's always been like a B, not an A masterpiece that people seem to think. But I thought that you did a really good job with that, and I was like, okay, he explained it better than a lot of other people.
See, the thing about Whiplash is that people think that the movie is just all J.K. Simmons yelling at Miles Teller, and yeah, there's a lot of that in there, but it's like with all Damien Chazelle movies, if it's like with La La Land and First Man as well, you think it's one thing, and it is one of those things, but once you get into it, it's like it's like one of those crepe cakes. It's like there's a surface level, but then there's like layers on top of layers in there. So
I just wish that we got to know a little bit more about Miles's motivation for putting up with this crazy person. And
in defense, in a point of defense on that, there's a scene in the movie where Miles Teller is with his dad and they're sitting with their family, and that scene, without outright saying, this is my motivation for this, talks about why he does the things that he does. He admires the work of guys like Joe Jones and I was about to say Buddy Holly, but that's not the guy, Charlie Parker, who of course died at 36 in an alley, hopped up on heroin, but turned out to be one of the best jazz drummers of all time. There's a line in there where Miles Teller would say, I would much rather die at 35 and everyone knowing who I was rather than live till 90 and no one know who I was. Meaning that I would rather much live a short, successful life than a long and unsuccessful life. So it's all about success and what you will do to attain that success.
Yeah, and I guess put up with that crazy person. Yeah, no, I see it.
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, I could have had even more, I think, motivation from him, but I get it. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a very good choice. I mean, for me, I would definitely, the movie I always push on people is Your Name from Makoto Shinkai. I think it's a great gateway into anime. It's pretty it's pretty approachable in the sense that it has funny parts, it has sad parts, it has I mean, and I think that's why it's such a great movie, is that it's entertaining on so many levels. You can appreciate it on just a entertaining movie level, but then there's also sort of deeper spiritual themes and messages that you can pull out of it. There's some people appreciate it as a LGBTQ kind of, for there's sort of this trans element to the characters in each other's bodies and experiencing what's like to be a woman versus experience what's like to be a man. That there, that's there. There's also, I mean, just the beautiful animation, the beautiful music. So there's lots of different ways to appreciate it, and I love it. I think it's such a great movie.
Anime food is the best food.
Yes. All those scenes at the cafe, the best. So
in Shinkai's next film, Weathering with You, I was sitting there like, I don't know how, but this man made me want to eat a Big Mac.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and just I love the romance. I think the ending is absolutely perfect, pitch perfect in Your Name. I don't know. I just love Mitsuha and Tataki and their story, and so that's the one that I push on people. But what's your question?
So my question for you is this: has there ever been a movie you went into expecting to not like very much, but you walked out of saying, "Wow, that was actually really good"?
Yeah, gosh, let me think. Um, what's a recent one? The mm, let me think. Yeah, I always try to end up with an open mind, and the let me think. What's a recent one for you? While I'm thinking, or what's one that
Uh,
you have?
that would probably have to be Venom from 2018. Like I saw all the trailers and I'm like, okay, this is probably not going to be good. And for like the first half hour, I was right. But then as soon as Tom Hardy gets into and when Tom Hardy and Venom meet, it's like, okay, it gets good. I'm not going to sit here and say that Venom is like Avengers Infinity War levels of good. It's not, but it's certainly not like the bad stuff that people compare it to. Like people forget that Spawn existed or Batman and Robin was a thing or Elektra was a thing. It's like no, it's no, Venom is not necessarily amazing, but I still had fun with it and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So this wasn't actually, I didn't watch it in the theater, but one that was really exciting for me is the movie called Son of Bigfoot. And if you looked at the poster, if you looked at the thing, it looked like terrible, low budget animated film. And then I actually watched it because I was watching all of the animated films for that year. That's what I do. And I was so charmed by it. I thought it's not like the best movie ever made, but I thought that it had a ton of heart. I thought the animation was nice. I thought that it had a good story, and it was really charming. And I talked about in my review of just being so excited to be able to talk to be able to write the review because so many times it feels like we're kind of taking things down a notch, in criticism, where we're finding we find some flaws, frustrations, different things like that. And it was just so exciting to be able to go and say, this was way better than I thought it was going to be, and I actually really enjoyed it. And so that was an exciting one for me that I ended up liking. I'm not going to say it's a great movie, but I actually enjoyed the Dumbo remake. I saw it the weekend that I was getting cyberbullied really bad, and so it was kind of the
Okay, that makes sense.
combining of events. But I thought they did the baby mind sequence really good. I thought it was moving, and I thought that it was kind of a weird story for Disney to tell about this giant company buying a smaller company. Like,
How they
okay, weird.
mixed that is it must have been like it just was like
Right.
but I actually have a story about seeing that movie and I don't know how much time left we have. I'll try and
Yeah,
keep
go for it.
but I this was around the time and when theaters reopen I'm going to be doing this, but sometimes there's like 2 or 3 new releases coming out a week. It just depends on the week. Well, there was 2 wide releases that weekend. One of them was Dumbo. Just to give an example, I believe in one night I saw Aquaman, Bumblebee, and Mary Poppins Returns. Yeah, it was a pretty busy night for me. But when I got out of Dumbo 2019, it was like maybe 12:15 in the morning. So I was walking out to my car, turned on my phone, And it was like God was testing me that day, because I pull up my emails and find out my entire channel was deleted. And I'm not kidding. Like, they sent me an email saying you have violated terms of services. Your channel has been deleted. And I was,
oh my gosh,
what in the blue hell? So I ran to my car, ran home, logged onto YouTube, and it was just a blank screen. I'll send you a screenshot through. I'll DM it to you if you don't believe me. But it was just, for like a half an hour, I was just like, oh God, what am I gonna do? And turns out I figured, okay, this is probably not going to help things, but I appealed it. I wrote out a short appeal, like, this is false. I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't even have any copyright claims. Like, that's just showing to how, like, bad that was. So I wrote out a short appeal, sent it, and I was just like, okay, I'll just deal with this in the morning. And so then I go off, I take a shower and everything, and then I go check my phone again. It turns out about 30 minutes later, YouTube was like, your channel has been reinstated. And I'm like, what? And so,
oh my gosh,
down for like an hour and 45 minutes only to put it right back up. It was like, was this like a hostage negotiation? Or like, don't put pictures in your videos or else you will know what's going to happen. So it was just, and all of that happened after I saw Dumbo 2019.
Oh my gosh. So it's like trauma.
The movie is bad, but it was compounded by the fact that I almost lost my entire channel.
Yeah.
I lost it for about an hour and 45 minutes.
I guess I have pretty low expectations for these live action remakes. So I don't know.
The one that I like the most is The Jungle Book, and there are some that don't like it too much. I really enjoyed it. It was like, they did the thing that I wanted these live action remakes to do, make it different, and they steered more into the darker tones of the original book, and not the musical that it was in the 60s, which I love, by the way. But I'm glad that they went in a different direction, and the songs they did were terrible. Bill Murray cannot sing. Christopher Walken, God bless him, is a national treasure and pioneered one of my favorite lines in any Disney movie ever, in The Country Bears. This is not over! Bam!
I haven't seen that. You've seen that? That is in my bucket list. I've got to see it. It's so bonkers. That's so funny. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It's not the best, that Dumbo, but I enjoyed it. But I thought of one while we were talking, that I thought that the first Paddington looked terrible from the trailers.
I didn't. I was just like, oh man, this just like a Paddington. What the heck is a Paddington?
Yeah. And it ended up being really good. Also, another movie that we talked about on Hidden Gems was Instant Family. I thought looked terrible from the previews, and then it ended up being so good. I loved it. So those are some that I think fit the bill for me. So yeah, and there we go. I think that'll be good. There's a lot more we could talk about, but I think that's good for the video, for the stream. And let us know your thoughts on all the different things we talked about in the comments section or on Twitter. And Ryan, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Also my YouTube channel, which is very much alive, thank God, at RyanCam Movie Reviews. We're currently live at the minute on a Friday, which means that my review for Following, Christopher Nolan's very first movie, just dropped. So I'm going to be reviewing all of Nolan's films in honor of Tenet, coming out at the end of July. And I'm also currently doing the AFI project. I'm all the way up to It's a Wonderful Life. But in the coming weeks, I'll be covering stuff like Chinatown and E.T. and The Grapes of Wrath and All About Eve and Double Indemnity. It's just great stuff. Also, I'm going to be watching The Vast of Night on Amazon Prime. And I'm going to be reviewing that because it's a new release and I need the taste of Artemis Fowl out of my mouth.
I'm so excited for you to see that. I think you will love it. we'll see. I don't want to overhype it, but it just seems like your style. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it.
It's good. It's very unique, but I enjoyed it. So, all right, there we go. I think we did it. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out and follow me at the Hallmarkies Podcast. And then please consider becoming a patron. We appreciate our patrons so much. And all that information will be in the description section, as well as a link to our merch store where you can get really cool shirts like this Smile-worthy shirt that I have on.
Yes, subscribe to Rachel. She has the best movie review channel on this entire platform. It's the best, the very best. None better like it. Ask anyone. It is the best.
Oh, thanks. You're sweet. All right. Well, great. Well, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
See you in the next one.